Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host today, and by Georgia, there's a lot of activities going on all over the place, an aspect of it. And as you note, some of the things that I'm trying to do is to educate and inform. And so one issue just came out that I thought maybe we need to address. It was just announced in the Portland Tribune of all publications that Loretta Smith, remember who just recently ran for city council, has now announced the fact that she's going to be running for this newly not yet defined congressional seat for the city of Portland, and not city of Portland, for the state of Oregon. It just so happened our population has increased to a point where we're going to have an additional congressperson sitting representing Oregon, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So, but she's announced the fact that she is going to be running for that congressional seat. It hasn't been defined. Nearly the population increase has been kind of like in the metropolitan area, Multnomah County, up in this area aspect of it, but it can be all throughout the rest of the state. We don't know, and then there's a political process that they're going to have to go through, process aspect of it, and so consequently, since Loretta did, I thought maybe there'd be a good opportunity to interview someone who may be who had an interest, and it just so happened. I'm out here looking for different issues and whatever, and I found out that there was a person that was interested in it, and being around and knowing that he's more than qualified, because you know how I am in regards to the resumes. If you don't have a resume to represent the masses, it's a discouragement when it comes from my end of it. So. But not to say that you can do anything you want to do. Anybody can do whatever they want to. You can sign up for anything you want to. I'm just interested in getting some issues resolved, and we need someone, in all due respect, at least one of their major issues would be to define the whole issue of the affirmative action and blacks, and there's a whole different economics. There's a lot of things going on. But my point is that I've got a person here that's going to talk to you, but again, he's got a definition, and the reason why I think he has something to say, he spent quite a bit of time on the Portland School District. You know, he was right there in the education piece aspect of it, and as you note, it's the largest district in the state of Oregon, and they've always had major problems about solutions as far as African Americans were concerned. As far as failure rate and on and on and on, it just goes on and on and on. Even the last bonding measure the last largest bonding measure that we just passed for the school district, and in terms of new construction and whatever, and Jefferson High School, and that was one of the things that I was concerned about. They got no monies. Everybody else got the construction stuff, the new stuff. Even the one downtown, and there's a city school down there. They got beautiful stuff. Aspect of it. They got Benson, got their stuff, but Jefferson High School had nothing. They said that we're going to do something later on, but it's always the same deal. But so the problem goes on. Let's put it that way. But anyway, my guest today is a gentleman by the name of Derry Jackson, and I'm sure you've seen, some of you've seen him, but the others who haven't, trust me, he's a go-getter. He's a guy. He will state what's on his mind, and he has the educational background to be able to stand on his own. He's been a community leader in many ways. He's had family. He still has family, and he's been sort of like in and out to a certain degree, kind of like visiting back and forth, because at one point in time he went back to St. Thomas, and he went back to take care for his mom. And he basically spent all of his time then communicating back and forth, and then the rest of the time was on this baby, he's always been in communication with with Oregon and the community. He's very much aware of what's going on, and I'm just so excited about the fact that he's thinking about running for this congressional seat if and when it gets to be there, but also get into the politics of actually establishing the line, the address. Because I've always concerned about, whenever someone made the point about District 18, the Northeast Portland area. That's where blacks reside. Northeast Portland goes all the way beyond the airport, whatever. But the core area of blacks were basically, when you think about MLK and to the freeway and maybe to 15th or 20th or something like that, and maybe to Broadway and maybe to Columbia Boulevard, that was the core area. And in all due respect, at that time, I was at the Portland Observer newspaper as publisher during that particular time, and we rallied and got got the community involved, and we came up and we put an address there. It was called District 18, and for some strange reason, all of a sudden, it was there. We got someone elected from that piece aspect of it, Margaret Carter, but she was the second person there. But the bottom line, Margaret Carter's been there. She's since retired, but they did away with District 18. They did away with the address, and there was another area that an address, and as a result of that, now we've got gentrification. Blacks are kind of talking here in Portland, talking about the whole issue of reparation. There's a whole bunch of other things along that particular line, and rightfully so. And the progress has been here. We've just gone through Juneteenth, you know what I mean? And so now people are free. And I make the point now about the fact that, well, please don't call me African American no more, a minority. I'm an American. I just so I'm here. I'm in the now. I'm in the swamp with everybody else. So please understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to knock out about who I am. I know who I am. But the fact of the matter is, there's no excuses anymore. Don't use that as an excuse for me not. And I'll be right up front with you. I'm sharing it with you because the person that I'm interviewing you right now, in all due respect, it sort of falls in that same category. I'm not putting words in his mouth aspect of it, but he's solid as a rock. He represents everybody. He represents all the kids. He was there at that school district. He had the background, if you will, to really had the experience to understand what our issues are. And from a community that always talks about issues that are always non-solvable. He was always there on the front line to try to deal, whether it be from an economic standpoint, whether it be from an educational standpoint, whether it be from a family standpoint. I mean, it's just on and on and on. So I've done my thing now. I'm going to bring him right on in. And like I said, and right now, I've got a business card here that he told me about that he is and what he does. And it says here, math tutor. Wow, that was great. And I think that's a heck of a deal. But he's had many hats, and trust me, when you look at his resume, it's very, very impressive. Welcome aboard, Derek.
Well, Bruce, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And it's been a minute.
Yes.
We've been here before.
Yes. Well, talk a little bit about yourself for a minute.
Well,
Give me a little background, and your family, and this, that, and the other.
Well, one of the reasons why I continue to remain in touch with our community is all my kids live here. I have 3 adult sons living and working in the area, and a daughter who just graduated from Oregon Health OSHU with a PA degree. So she's heading into medicine now. I think her graduation is still, days away or something. We're very excited. And the thing we need to realize, I've lived a lot of places. I've lived in Washington, D.C. for a number of years. I lived in, that's where DJ was born, my firstborn. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Really?
For a number of years. My daughter, Danielle, the one that just graduated from OSSU, she was born there. And in each case, I was recruited and then relocated. In D.C., I was working with Vitro Corporation, and we designed. Our company was responsible for the electrical portion of the Phalanx system, which is a device that's on all the sailors, protecting all our sailors now on ships. It's an we couched it as an anti-kamikaze weapon because it will strip a incoming plane. It was designed for that. But you see it's used for missiles, it's used for anything. They will, it protects the ship. I left there, was recorded by Freightliner. That's how I was moved to Charlotte. Mercedes Daimler had just bought Freightliner. And they had bought, the corporation was here in Portland, right. But they were introducing what we call the Class 6-7 truck. And it's really cool how they did that. Daimler bought Freightliner for $50 million and told us to put a hood on a cab that they were selling all over the world called the LN2 cab. Selling all over the world. We took that cab, it comes on rail right up the Central America right here, and we put our hood on it. And today, it's one of the hottest selling school buses today.
Really?
Most of the school buses you see is a Freightliner, and it's for a simple reason. You're not going to find a truck with a tighter turning radius. So operators like that, drivers like that. It's maneuverability. But what sells is the visibility. When we design our trucks, we start with certain hard parameters. One of them is no one else will have more visibility in the cab than our trucks. And it was a safety issue. That's one of the reasons why school buses love Freightliners. They moved the company, they laid off 200 people. I was fortunate to be in the 100 that was invited to Portland. So they moved the family over here, and then I had my last son here. He's a 911 operator in Washington County. Very proud of that kid and the work that he's doing as a first responder. I'm learning a lot about what goes on in that industry and what's going on with police officers and things like that. And I have to say I've developed quite a more empathetic air for the work that they got to do. But what brought me here was engineering and design with Freightliner Corporation. While I was here, from the second day I was in Oregon, the second day I was a Webfoot. I was downtown signing up for the Citizen Budget Advisory Committee, starting with being on the CBAC for the auditor, Gary Blackmer's CBAC, and just fortuitously, I got a really good look at the policy and funding apparatus for our county, because we actually helped Gary determine the audit sequence and priorities, and we're very involved in the construction and the release and the final report of all those audits. The city is stacked with audit reports. Incredibly valuable if you want to know what's going on, what is a problem, what was a problem, who was supposed to do what. All you have to do is start pulling audits. They're all there. Left the CBAC, joined CIC. I tell you,
what is CIC?
Multnomah County Citizen Involvement Committee. I happen to have the distinction of the longest serving chair for that committee. And the reason why is I was chair for 3 years. They kept on electing me, and I made sure that will never happen again. So now we have a 2-term limit. I know if I'd left it up to the guy, I'd be there 4 years or 5 years, but that was not being paid, and it's time to. It's important to have fresh blood coming through. So I was there and led the charge. I don't even remember the details now, but we made sure that no, you're not going to just make this a little. Yeah, 2 terms enough. Right. So it gave me the distinction of having been the longest serving chair because I was there 3. But while I was there, I did some other work, like people might be familiar with the Gladys McCoy Award that came out while I was chair. The idea we wanted to recognize.
She chaired the county.
She was the citizen. She had then passed, but yes, Gladys McCoy, the Honorable Gladys McCoy, was our county chair at one time, and it was very endearing to me because she's the one who helped me do better at my position in the Multnomah County CIC. Okay. We were always under the attack to be cut in funds. Dan Saltzman then was in the county, and we had a small budget, but even that they still wanted to yank it, and it was Gladys that made sure that money was there. Yeah. But I've done stuff like I've been a Little League coach. I've been Pear Park Little League president for 3 years. Some of the work I did there that I'm really proud of is I introduced the computer system to our league operation, got our league on a budget management discipline, got advertisement panels put up in our fence. I play baseball too, and sometimes in the outfield. And when you're tracking a fly, baseball outfielders use the peripheral to pick up where the fence is. And just your cyclone fence will just blend right into the background, so you don't see it. I have a friend who literally ripped up his legs by ended up getting his cleats got stuck in the fence. He ran right into it, and when he fell back, his cleat was still stuck in the fence in an odd way. Well, I with the league was always coming in with deficits to begin. I actually paid out of my pocket the first league to get our charter. You can't do anything until you get your charter.
Right.
Well, I had to pay out of that my family's money to do that. Well, by the second year, I had put in place advertising panels around the outfield, which I knew doubled as a safety mechanism for outfielders tracking fly balls. But it gave us instant cash, and from that day on, we never have to worry about asking one of our volunteers to take money out of their family pockets. That's just one. But one of the things you mentioned, Loretta is running. I know Loretta. Loretta knows me.
Before you get off of that, there, what about how'd you get in the school district? You ran for office, right? You ran.
Well, actually, I was recruited. Again, Lucius Hicks his wife was terminally ill. Apparently, they had taken applicants, and they were trying to we didn't have any African American on the board but him.
Right.
Excuse me if I use the word black. I'm very comfortable using black. We didn't have any blacks on the board but him. So they wanted to make sure they replace him with a quality black. So they took applicants, and I figure wasn't satisfied. And somebody, Mark Abrams, called me. He had worked with me on Multnomah County Citizen Involvement Committee.
Okay.
He called me, and it was the rest was history. I got the nomination, finished his term, and then ran a contested election citywide, and you guys elected me. And I pray that I served you well. One of the things the papers were known for me, I'm the kind of guy that answered your phone. When you called, I answered your phone call, and if I needed to come to your school, the Oregonian called me, I was up and down kitchens checking foods for see what's but bottom line is, when students call or a parent call, as a board member, I came.
Okay.
I wanted to know that they had that support, so it's some of the thrilling experiences, and some of the best friends I've met were people I met sitting across from them as they were trying to work with a principal or vice principal or teacher. Sometimes it can be scary especially for black people. But yeah, I was recruited. Unfortunately, I ended up going through a bad divorce, and unfortunately, it played out in the public. And one thing I think anybody could appreciate is anybody could say anything about you. Anybody could lie about you. It doesn't take. There's nothing to do with you. And unfortunately, domestic violence is very important. It's a crisis in our country, and our law enforcement take it very seriously. And so when she cried wolf, they took it very seriously. And what I realized in the whole thing, it was a play to make sure I didn't get to see my kids. I did not want to be with her anymore, and there's good reasons, but for another reason. But she was not going to let me see my kids. So the play was a lot about that. Every single time you saw me got arrested, I was trying to be with my kid. The last time I was literally coaching third base when I was ordered to present myself, and was one thing about restraining orders, all they need to be is in your space, and you are violated, and that happened all the time. The judge looked me straight in the face as I was pleading with him that she comes into he says, I don't have jurisdiction over her. I only have jurisdiction over you.
She was there.
And he told me I should have ran like I saw a ghost. And so, but, I never gave anybody an opportunity to do that to me again, but I would run if I had seen a ghost. There's a problem with the system, because unfortunately it costs, and there are women that actually need that help. And instead of dealing with people that need that help, they're chasing people who are perverting the system for their own particular gains. God bless her. My kids are fine. I am fine. One of the things that experience did for me was it allowed me to get back into my own religion. I had left my faith as an angry 15-year-old, and I had a chance to genuflect, and so that was good for me to get back into my faith as a Seventh-day Adventist. But it also exposed just an underlying cancer in our society. The majority of the people I saw in there can't read or write. If I show them that newspaper, there's little words that, and if they can read a word, they couldn't tell you what it means. So it showed me that as long, and it makes sense, if you do not have an education in a civilized society, you're likely going to be left to your own devices. And those devices that are remaining are typically outside the law. So we end up having to pay for a lot of people who were just trying to survive. And this is what the campaign is going to be about, and I pray we get to talk about it, because there are 3 things on the plan that will address that and more. But one thing I should mention, I want people to be very clear about this. We are opening up, and it's very important, before we can do anything, it's very important that we all are healthy and protect each other. Get vaccinated. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there, but let me tell you the easy way to understand what to believe. It's as simple as this, something I taught my kids. If you're going to listen to somebody's opinion, it's important that you ask that same person to give you the opinion of the countervailing argument. They should be able to be equally eloquent in explaining what the other people are saying is wrong with his argument. If you find such a person, you'd find somebody that truly have a scholarly grasp on what it is they're talking about. But what you will find is, we live in a era where everybody's drowning in information, but we are lacking in wisdom. And it's because we're drowning in information. And it's easy to get lost and then maybe even think you recognize a pattern. Data speaks, but you have to be careful about how and who's doing the speaking, because I can make it speak and say anything I want. The way we do it in scholarly research, I'm back in school right now, working on getting my master's and my PhD. I'm appreciating any scholarly report will always show you all the other arguments. In fact, it cannot be considered scholarly, unless it has it is encumbered and embraced everything. Okay, we don't even pretend to say that once we've done the report, it's over. What we do is, once we've done the report and we've organized the data, we say, this is what the data suggests. And listen, we don't even need rocket science to see what's wrong with our city.
That's right.
3 things we're going to do to fix it. Okay, send me to Congress. 3 things we're going to do. Listen, ideas are what we need. And those are things we should be talking about. We don't have policy conversations anymore. There's a lot of knee-jerk reactions, a lot of reactions to anecdotes and emotions. But with policy debates, you get a chance to have a full deliberation, and out of that rises the best option. I recently heard the Army has a saying, adapt to overcome. That's the Army. Okay. Adapt. I know you're military, but the Army has a concept, adapt to overcome. Well, listen, we are the strongest country on planet Earth. One of the reasons we're the strongest country on planet Earth is because we have the strongest military. And it says a lot if what our Army recognizes in that saying, adapt to overcome. It says a lot to us. And indeed, that is what, evolutionists say is happening in evolution. Not that I'm an evolutionist, but I know it's a lot more complicated than what the creationists or the evolutionists are saying. It's there, both. But the bottom line is we have to adapt. We picked up a new seat because we had a little over 1 million new people joining this state in the last 10 years. It takes 730 some odd to get a new congressional seat. We blitzed that. in the last 10 years. That's why we're talking about this new seat. That tells me that we've got new people, a million new people. That would be a third. We went up by a third. When I left to go take care of Mom, the state had a little over 3 million in it. If we picked up a million, okay, we picked up a third. Now, when you look at it statistically now, that million is a quarter, but that's a lot of new people, a lot of new Oregonians. We can solve anything if we work together. We need each other, okay? But for us to find the answer, we got to work together, and we got to work intelligently. I am not impressed with our leadership. And one way I can tell is just I could look at the residuals. The residuals, one I'll just pick on is one of the things I came to the, I'm back here, was working with the minority contractors and doing some studies for them. And in looking at that work, the first thing that jumped out is the legislature passed funding for the I-5 widening in 2017, some 430 some odd million, but nobody, that entire legislative body, and all the subcommittees that might have seen that work before, not to mention the department that was responsible for generating that work, nobody caught the fact that they did not factor in an inflation, a simple thing as the inflation factor in the money. 2017, they approved 430 million for a project they're going to build and start in 2023. With no inflation factor suggests that you're going to start with closer to more like 400 million, not 430,000. Things are not the same. So it's just those things that I'm talking about that shows that nobody's home. We have to worry who's watching the shop. And it matters. And I have one suggestion. This is one of the reasons why I know I'm your best candidate. When you elect someone, check their background. See what it is they did before. You are going to find that in my background, I have thousands of hours of volunteering my time to my community. From volunteering in the Cathedral Park Neighborhood Association as a land use chair and dealing with all the land use issues in my neighborhood. I mentioned CIC. Loretta mentioned that voter suppression is our number one problem in the state. I find that shocking, frankly, that it's the number one problem. And one of the reasons, for several reasons I find it shocking, but one that stands out most is when you look, we have vote by mail. It's a model in the country now. When you look at who represented Portland when we studied and created that policy, it was yours truly that we sent to Salem for 18 months to put vote by mail together. My name is all over that policy, as did all the others that were there. I don't know where Loretta was, if was in the state at all. But we put some good work out there, and I'm proud of vote by mail. I'm proud by vote by mail. So it's not, voter suppression is not the number one priority. I would submit that the number one priority is these. These are the three things, the 3-point plan. Education, which is right down my lane. I mentioned that I'm back in school now working on my master's. I'm a high school teacher, I teach advanced math at the high school level in Dallas, and did. Up until last year, I didn't take my contract this past last school year because I was back in school and I know I had some other things I got to do. But I'd been teaching high school down there. Back in school now, I have came across or had the pleasure of learning what's called the learning cycle. And I will tell parents today, if your teacher is not using the learning cycle in the classroom, right, the learning cycle. Okay. In fact, it's been modernized to the learning cycle / 5E, 5E, as in echo. If your teacher is not teaching using the learning cycle 5E model. Fire them. Fire them. Quick. If you love them, tell them to go get some training, because that's the model you want your student to learn. The 5E, the learning cycle 5E model is hands down just extraordinary. One of the things, I'll give you a quick preview on it, then I'll go on to the point two. One of the things about it is, one of the mistakes we make about teaching students is we begin by telling them what it is you're going to learn. Okay. Now, most school students don't care one iota what it is you have to say. Most. There's some that just love learning. I don't remember which one I was, but I know certainly as an older man or adult, I love learning. But what we do in the learning cycle is we hide our hand. We don't tell them what you're going to learn. Instead, we create an environment through exercise and activities whereby you expect. One of the things the students are going to be asked for is to make observations and graphs and charts, and you really don't try to give them much more than just, you need to document and talk about what it is you see in your own words. So the children will then go through the things you have set up, and all you're doing is there to make sure that they're moving through it. You're not supposed to really be doing much, but teachers, we want to help. But we got to back off and let them figure it out themselves. What's going to happen, the first phase in the learning cycle, is by the time they finish out the first phase, they would have discovered for themselves what it is you're trying to tell them, you're trying to teach them. And you would not have said a word about what it is you're trying to teach them. And this could work for any topic, any topic. And then we bridge from the first phase to the second phase by asking them to say in their words, sum up in your words what you learned in the first phase. So the transition into the second phase, indeed, the essence of the second phase is to connect them now to the words and the language of the topic we're trying to get them to learn. Now we're bringing the technical language and the vocabulary, gravity. We start talking about, it's gravity. We start talking and linking the things that they were trying to say with the languages that the scientists and the professionals use. And now that they have their own. In the activity, they're just enamored in the activity. It's not like your typical class. And then out of that, they learned. Now they got the language for what it is they learned. And then we finish with an exercise to show us as teachers that they got it, where we set up another environment where now it's similar to the first, but now they know the language. They're going to go through this exercise and finish with the full analysis using the right language. That's the learning cycle. And I tell you, any child that goes through it is going to be anxious to come back the next day.
Interesting.
They had so much fun, they can't wait to come back the next day. Education. And by the way, you cannot expect a free democracy without an educated people. It does not exist. Someone that is not educated, you watch, they must therefore then take the word of those in power, those in authority. And those who are in authority may not always be benevolent rather. Okay, they may not have the best intentions for us. But as a free-thinking society, especially a democracy, we can check them with our votes. Okay, things are not hopeless, Portland. Far from that. My plan is to go to Washington and bring back the funding to put the learning cycle in perhaps Portland Public Schools as a pilot, but the goal is to lead the United States, Oregon, to lead the United States, having found the way to educate kids and get them to achieve. We can do that, and it's nobody else is doing it. We can do it. Number two is really about hope. Yet, I mean, more immediate hope. I have been in and out of Oregon for the last year. I've had a home on Bethany Road since September last year. And what I've noticed coming from Dallas is there's a lot of tents. There's a lot of campouts. There's a lot. In fact, I love taking the max. I don't have that pleasure in in Texas. So when I'm here, I try to take the max and the bus as much as I can. In the communities that I live, one of the ways they keep minorities and black people out is they make sure that there's no mass transit in there. That's one way you control people. We do have a problem. And one of the things I want to do, and we need, you're going to hear governments talking about funding, cutting funds. The police was defunded, and it's really a fight about these scarce resources. We see what's happening in Washington, where one president not too long ago gave his friends a lot of money, and we either have to make it up, the rest of us, or they have to cut programs, and we're seeing it. Our reactions might be knee-jerk, where they're cutting funding for police. Listen, my plan is simple. If I was to ask you what is Portland's largest asset on its books, Portland is a corporation, so it has financial reports and make statements and stuff. So it has an asset listing. Most may not guess right. I submit the most valuable thing we have on the book is our piers, our terminals. We've got 6 of them. And when you look at the West Coast, they're some of the most utilized on the West Coast, and a coast that is already at full capacity. Right. Not too long ago, I was asked to consider running for Congress, and back then the Navy was interested in coming to Portland. They saw the capacity we have here. I'd like to go back and finish that conversation with the Navy, and bring some substantial programs, operations here. I believe I can turn Oregon from a donor state into a taker state, which I don't think has ever happened. All we need to do is put the type of installation that I see is possible in. Now, one of the things we take this is one of the reasons you don't see a lot of the military here. Oregonians take very seriously the quality of the land, the pristineness of the waters and our land. I'm going to definitely require that as they're coming in. They're bringing in the highest and latest technology in green technology. Right. So you got green jobs and jobs. As we demonstrate that we can provide a very important need for the country. One of the things that Alexander Hamilton said, rightfully so, the thing that makes us that will make us a strong nation, rather, I almost gave it away, is a navy. Hamilton argued that in the Federalist Papers, a navy. Norfolk is drowning. A little bit of rain, and they have to shut the base down. We need help. They need help. Once upon a time, what brought black people to Oregon was building ships. We can do that again. We can put in place a substantial industry here that will bring good manufacturing jobs. The thing about manufacturing jobs, they're not like flipping burgers and selling coffee. They're really good jobs with good benefits. And those good jobs with good benefits have residual effects, to the multiplier effect. You own a barber shop, a clothing store, a restaurant, you're going to feel that bubble. They're not going to keep that money on a mattress. They're coming to give it to you. So I believe one of the things my campaign can do is, and we will be pledging this, is looking at Oregon's GDP and focusing on doubling it in my tenure there. That's going to bring new money to the state and new jobs. And with that new money and new jobs, we can deal with that third plank of mine. Gun violence, homelessness, and police reform. Let me talk a little bit about the homelessness and gun violence. That plan 2 is talking about bringing jobs. Okay. A lot of those jobs are going to be trades and vocations. We are in a position now. I'm actually already doing it. Paul Knowles is a dear friend of mine, was aware of my interest in helping, especially our young people on the streets here, find good jobs. And I was able to get his grandson hired as a plumber. That kid is excited now, making money. And I tell you, Plumbers. My partner who hired him, he trained one other. I think it was his nephew. That kid is making over 200 grand a year as a plumber. As a plumber, there's money out there. In the trades, these are substantially well-paying jobs. But we try to tell our kids what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that. But we don't tell them what to do. Now, those who manage to get to stay right in school learn what they can do, but not all of them. I told you I was thrown into the den and discovered that most of them can't read. So listen, if you can't read, you're going to be closed. You don't know what's out there. I'd love our kids to get on the beaches that I grew up on as a kid. I'd like them to eat some of the fruits that I ate. You can't find them here, but you can pick them there. We can do that. That third program is about looking at creating a jobs/affordable homeless pilot where the focus is not on building apartments. When I moved to Oregon in 1990, we had over 66 some odd thousand blacks. Most of them living right here.
Right.
You know what we're down to now?
What, 20 or something?
36,000. We dropped about half of. We've lost half of the blacks that once lived in Oregon. They're gone.
And they're not all in Portland.
No. I'm saying in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
They've left Oregon.
Wow.
They've left Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Well, we could be a lot more inviting, and we are. Oregonians are awesome people. When I landed the last time I flew in here, stopped at Starbucks, ordered a whole bunch of things because we were hungry. We got up there and they said, "I'm sorry, the person in front of you already paid for your meal."
Wow.
That's Oregon.
Wow.
So a black man sitting in the car. My friend is he's white, but he's got native in him. But a black man, it might, for all intents and purposes, a white man sitting in the back of the car. Somebody paid for all of our food. But listen, we can do better, and we will. With money in the pockets, with money in their pockets, all of a sudden living in a tent is not going to look so cool. With money in your pocket, you're going to be worried about protecting the nice things you buy with your stuff. With money in your pocket, we can get people off the street. With money in their pocket, they can actually now not have to defecate in the toilet, in the parking garage, or urinate. Oh, there's a cloud of urine that hangs over Portland right now. Try going to any of the parking garages. It's a toilet. It's a toilet. This is not healthy. Those flies that land on that thing are not bound to stay there. They're going to go other places. We got to clean that up. We can with leadership, and we will. The work that we're going to put folks to do off the street is building affordable single-family homes. Part of the problem we struggle with here is, by and large, our leaders are running around trying to find the next plot of land to develop into a giant apartment complex. And then they might throw a bone at you and say, "Oh, we're going to offer long-term affordable lease." That's the problem. Rent. Black people have suffered dearly in this country. And the one thing that catapults your wealth is a home. We need to be talking to our people and tell them it's very important to live in your home, not rent. Okay? If you live in your home, there's a matter of fact that you could end up living for free. Most people who live in their homes, when you look at the calculus, they lived there for free. Indeed, most not only lived for free, they get paid for it. Take in case you buy a home, any home. You could imagine a box 20 years ago. That box today you'd pay your mortgage. You'd pay your mortgage, yes. Just like a renter have to pay their rent.
Right.
The difference is that mortgage adds, that payment reduces the debt while the house appreciates in value. And eventually that house is oftentimes, in fact most times, if not all times, higher. The value of the house eclipses the loan on the house. You pay the loan off, that's pure cash, that's yours. Okay? You stay in that house, it keeps appreciating.
Right.
So you sell it later, you got a lot of cash. You not only live for free, but you got paid for living in that house. On the flip side, renters. I once upon a time used to coach the Tubman girls basketball team for 3 years. And I remember picking up, and as such, I literally dropped my girls home in my van, oftentimes after school, so I knew where they lived. One day, one of the girls, I saw her waiting for the bus. So I told her, hop in, I'll take you home. I knew where she was living, and I'm trying to turn there. She said, no, my grandma lived now in St. John's. I'm like, whoa, St. John's? So I remember her grandma lived in a big Victorian right there off of MLK, just west of all of that. So I had a feeling that where I'm going I was going to see what I saw.
Yeah.
Grandma had like a 3-story house. When I got to where I dropped her off, she was at an apartment complex. So Grandma sold the house and moved into an apartment complex. Now, that makes a lot of sense for Grandma because I tell you, somebody's got to cut the grass. When you own a house, there's stuff you got to do.
That's a responsibility.
But what I imagined in my mind is the same person that she is now paying rent to, okay, and she's going to own her house now. The person bought her house. She's now in their apartment, renting their apartment, giving them back the same very dollars she gave them, that they gave her for the house. There's a problem with rents. There's a place for it. If you know you're not going to live in a certain community long enough, yeah, it makes sense because there's not enough appreciation to make your money back. But it only makes sense for us to be thinking of using housing as a way to help African Americans, like I said, I like to say black people, come out, mitigate those damages that were done here. You know, in 1862, I want to point two things that happened in 1862. 1862, this country passed the Homestead Act, and the law said any white male 21 years of age will be granted free. No, actually they had a nominal charge, but it was by and large free, up to 640 acres of land. Not 40 acres of land. It was 640. You want to know where 40 acres come from? Okay. It was 640 acres was the Homestead Act. Millions took advantage of it. Millions. That same year, I'm not going to get that same year, Oregon, in 1862, Oregon assessed all blacks living here $5 tax for living in Oregon. So we didn't get any land. Instead, mulattoes and other races got taxed as well. We had to pay $5. That's an equivalent of about $133 in today's dollars. Mm-hmm. But nobody else had to pay that but you. Mm-hmm. Once a year to the state. I submit we will never, ever catch up. That's out of the question. We could even barely bring up the conversation about reparation without getting our heads chopped off. Despite the obvious theft, Tulsa and all kinds of things. Right here in Lower Albina, how we just took the black people's land right here. But, I don't think we need a handout either. Okay, we are benevolent people. I think what we want is a chance. We're just asking for a chance. Mm-hmm. One of the things we're going to do in police reform is I'm going to take to Congress a couple of key things that I think should be in the police reform package. I think defunding the police is the wrong way. Certainly, if you're going to bring new resources in, like psychologists, you need more money for them. It's not that. But two things I know is not being talked about. I've done some flying in the day as a pilot, and so I'm aware a little bit about what pilots, the mandates that pilots have, the requirements they have as commercial pilots. Truck drivers too. I came out of the trucking industry. They also have similar requirements. We regulate the amount of time they work. And the goal is to minimize the time that they work. So, because we recognize that their jobs are so critical, so life-threatening, that we don't want any of them operating a big truck 80,000 pounds behind your mom's car, okay, falling asleep, or flying a commercial airline, falling asleep. We take care of that in policy. We don't have anything like that for the police.
So we have that with these other two professions.
We have these two professions where we regulate the hours. Listen, police officers are similar to the military, but their job is for us. They police our Americans. They police us.
Yeah, right.
We want to make sure that when they come out to police us, they have good rest, that they're not cranky
Right.
and agitated
Right.
and jumpy.
Right.
You know, this is, I fear for my life, and this.
Yeah.
Ask them how much sleep they got. I've talked to police officers. Most of them, because of the shift, they don't share the same bedroom with their spouses. You don't, unless you talk to police officers, you don't get to understand that. Most police officers, some of them, they have another bedroom because just the nature of their jobs, just for the sake of their loved ones. You know, their job is very stressful. They may not admit it, but they have a high incidence of alcohol abuse. For the same reason that other people have alcohol and drug abuse. When your life is under stress, this is why people do these things. That drug addict is not trying to kill himself on purpose. That person who is addicted to something, they're not crazy. There's a problem. And in their mind, this is the only way to deal with it. But I'm saying it has an effect on us as a society. Those shooting, the gang violence and gun violence, they're not shooting, they're not targeting affluent neighborhoods. The place these shootings are happening are always, generally speaking, in black neighborhoods. And then what happens is, you know, other families want to get out.
Yeah.
You got enough houses go up for sale, the values are going to fall. The shootings alone is going to pull the value down. And before you know it, gentrification, that's how gentrification comes in. These folks that are coming into your community come in because there's an opportunity to pick up property at super duper dirt cheap prices. Why? Because of the economics.
Yeah.
Why the economics? Well, these guns are around. Listen, I've had a great job. I've never owned a gun in my life. One of the reasons is it's so expensive. I am shocked at a kid having the capacity to have a firearm. I'm like, where did he get that money?
Yeah. Yeah.
How?
And where do you get the gun?
There is a belief. Now, if I wanted, there's a concept or a belief that these guns are just appearing to these kids. I have gotten into many debates online about people saying, yeah, crates will just show up on the corner with guns and ammo. And the kids just go in and raid it. Now, kids with a bunch of guns in their pocket, what are they going to do next? They sell and shoot at their friends.
Yep, that's what's happening.
I happen to know we had a homicide in this city. And one of their friends was killed. In fact, it's a cold case. They're angry because the police have completely walked away from their buddy's death. It's a cold case. The friendship is now frayed because they all believed it was an inside job. All these shootings we've had weekend after weekend,
Right.
at least the ones in that section, I know what's going on. I've been told what's been going on. They're all they're petty disputes with each other. That's why it keeps fitting the same, what I say is gang, it keeps fitting the same profile. They don't care about shooting you and me. No, they're aiming each other. You and I have said why it's important to us is we get caught in the crossfire innocently. So and if you own property nearby, your property is going to get affected by that. The mere essence of those things are happening in your community. That's us doing that to us. We got a lot of work to do, but it's not at a loss. I'm going to bring the bacon home. I want to bring money to our community so people can get jobs, meaningful jobs. Industry will have room to work and grow. We can still have our bedroom community that Vera envisioned, the apartments, the people who are making handover, just a handful of them making handover money, handover fist, developing apartments while the rest of us boil. You could keep doing your thing. But I intend to make some space for home ownership programs. I intend to bolster first buyer programs, make sure young people, black kids especially, have an opportunity to get a chance. What I did when I was 21, my kids were raised in their house, in their own home, just like my dad raised me in my own home. My kids to this day are proud of that. I'd love for all their friends to have that, and we could if we learn to work together. And that's one of the reasons I know I am the guy that you want to send to Washington.
Boy, I tell you,
I should mention, I didn't mention that, so I should this. The other reform I want to mention, Bruce, for police reform is very important.
Okay.
Yeah. I am going to propose that lead rounds be removed from civilian policing. If we can knock down an elephant with a sedative from yards, police don't need to be shooting people with lead bullets. We've got options. We can knock them down, pick him up 12 hours later, he'd have a tummy ache and a slight headache. But at least he'd be alive.
I will say that is a stretch because, in all due respect, it was just announced that over 8 million guns were just recently purchased, and as a result of that, they're running out of ammo.
You see, and that's one of the other things we do. You don't have to worry about ammo anymore. Okay? Now, some people might say, well, the bad guys would be shooting lead. Well, listen, if you shot back a lead or you shot back that sedative round, if the cop hit him with that round, he's going down anyhow. I'm just saying, at least you got somebody you can take to court and get some answers from. Okay. And if you shot a kid, if a rogue cop killed your son, shot your son, 12 hours, he's fine.
Okay. Well, look here. That look like that we can start another discussion just on that particular piece. That's an interesting piece, and maybe I might even get an NRA person to come on down here.
I'll be happy.
And sit down. And
they're familiar with it. They use it now in hunting.
They need to be involved anyway. You got me? Okay. Well, this has been great, man. I mean, welcome aboard. We like the idea, and hopefully there might be other folks motivated out there to start getting into that leadership. We need more leadership.
Well, I'm looking for people to help. I can't be here forever. I need somebody to be ready to pick up. Donate at Wells Fargo. Okay. Derry Jackson for Congress.
Okay. Well, look here. It sounds good, looks good, and I'm going to have you back on again. Trust me.
It'll be my pleasure.
Again, welcome aboard. Appreciate the fact that you're going to be doing something.
Indeed.
And I'm sure that the viewing audience really appreciate that also too. So, therefore, please share this show with other folks within your means through this medium right here. That's what it's all about. Take care, and as George Page always said, back to what you believe in. Have a good one. Bye.